Hey guys, welcome. Today's video, I want to discuss a really common problem I see with men that are struggling in their relationships in life, and that's a dissatisfaction with life, an unhappiness. Not temporary, but just stuff sucks, okay? And they're just grinding it out for their kids. Hi, I'm Coach Dennis from manoflegacy.com, and I think there's some wisdom to be found from the dying that can help you, man. Okay? Couple of things. Bronnie Ware was a palliative care nurse who took care of dying people their final 3 to 12 weeks of life. And she published a book, The 5 Regrets of Dying. Tons of wisdom in these 5 regrets. And the number 1 and 2 hit me pretty hard. And I remember, and I've talked to a lot of men who are dealing with this. And number 1 is, and I have it written down so I get it right, I wish I would have the courage to live the life that is true to myself, not what others expected of me. I have talked to people, men who have gone into professions because their parents wanted them to, because this was the family business, but they hated it. If you hate what you do 8 to 10 hours a day, you're not going to be happy. So almost always the men who are struggling in relationship and are deeply unhappy with life aren't living a life that's true to themselves. That's just the reality of it. So that question is the most important for you. Are you living a life that's true to yourself, or are you living a life that others expect you to live? Something to think about. Now, the number 2 on the list for regrets of the dying was, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. And this was listed by every single man in their final days of care, because they miss their kids' ball games. They miss a lot of stuff with their kids growing up because they're working and working. But again, a lot of this is because we fall into the consumer trap. Being a consumer, thinking we need stuff, not understanding the difference between wants and needs. And it just puts us on a treadmill that's hard to get off. Number 3 was, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. And this is walking on eggshells, wanting to keep the peace. I would say it's because you were afraid to tell her no. She doesn't need a new car. Okay. You might need to tell yourself no on that, man. Okay. You don't need a new truck. But this is something, be honest with your feelings. And it doesn't mean tell your wife all your feelings. You got to take it to the men. That's why we have your men's group. That's why we have a lot of online resources, because men need an outlet, and your wife's not equipped or made to handle all of your concerns and frustrations. Number 4 was, I wish I stayed in touch with my friends. Again, men, when they get married, they tend to lose themselves and become a dad, and they prioritize that over everything else. And while that needs to be a top priority, it should never be the number 1 priority. A lot of nice guys get offended when I say this, but the reality is the priority should be yourself, your physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. First and foremost, your mission, then your relationship with your partner, and then your kids would come into that level or right below as a subset. The kids should not be the center of the world. The parents that do that are insane. And then the final one is, I wish I would have let myself be happy. So a lot of these go to not standing up for yourself, not prioritizing yourself, and chasing the wrong things. This is something I help men with all the time. Not surprisingly, these things correlate to a lot of men having sexless marriages and unhappy relationships. You can actually have all of the above. You can have a happy relationship. You can have a fulfilling sex life. And you could tell her no and get her upset if you're not afraid of that. So if you're struggling in your relationship, contact link is down below for a free consultation. don't hesitate to give me a call and let's talk about it. All right? Have a great day.